So Atlassian is a B2B company. And you used a word that I thought was very interesting. You used the word sales cycle. Atlassian is one of the companies that holds the flag very high and say, oh, we don't have sales reps, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel that your work, your heavy data science, growth hacking, heavily driven data analytics, driven conversion optimization replaced classical enterprise sales?
And since inception of the company, much before I even joined Atlassian, I know it's been an extremely data-driven company. And when I actually talk to people and they ask me what's different about Atlassian, this is the one thing that it comes to me, having worked in the industry for a while, is that it really can do this in a non-traditional sales cycle. It really starts by understanding the customer. I, in fact, say as someone in the marketing world, my job's actually very easy because the key ingredient to successful marketing is great products, and we have that. And so I actually think word of mouth is going to be really one of the hardest thing for any marketer to sort of gain credit for in any form or fashion. And so that's where I think one of so they've been able to leverage that. They've really grown from starting with the end user and the end user's use cases. But yes, to grow the company, it's been data-driven decisions. The very fact that my team exists in Atlassian, the very fact that we say, okay, we need to be able to do web optimization. If we want to optimize our messages to the people, we want to hold everything that we do accountable to the fact that we want people to be actively using the products and engaging with our products. That's really the feedback cycle that's guiding marketing. So yes, I'd say that being able to make these data-driven decisions and keep the customer and the end user like as a goal for everybody in the organization, that's where I feel a lot of benefit.
I don't want to let you off hook yet. So do you think that growth hacking around customer acquisition can replace traditional enterprise software sales in other companies as well? I mean, Atlassian is phenomenally successful, even though all the company stock tanked. You guys are pretty steady over the last year. Do you think this is the next generation of enterprise B2B sales?
I think so. I actually do think so because, I mean, there's so much. You have to do it just with the right mindset, I think, and that's what it starts with. But there's so much data available today. Your customers are speaking to you through every possible channel. They're speaking to you through what they're doing on your site. They're speaking through you to what they're doing in the product. If you listen and you keep them as in front and center of what you're doing, I don't know why it wouldn't be the case. I know it's a unique story for the company though, but I do believe that the more and more people that are talking about understanding things in a customer success groups everywhere, growth hacking groups everywhere, everyone's really trying to optimize for the behavior and change what they're doing in favor of letting data make the decisions, and I think that's the right direction.
Was there a single point, a single breakthrough that your team had where everybody went up and cheered? What's the biggest achievements since you're there? We're like, holy moly, we didn't even expect, by just flipping the switch, we increased our conversion rate by 10% or something.
I can't point to something that was like one big thing that dramatically changed it. What we have actually noticed is that a lot of small changes make a big difference. A lot of small, like surfacing, and not only on the site, but even to us as employees, like surfacing small different types of data makes a difference in the way we optimize. Surfacing the right kind of information to the customer makes a difference. So we've seen success with a lot of small changes, and when you actually think about such a large user base, it's even the 1% differences that really count over time. And it's also sort of the deep funnel mentality, because I've always believed that it's easy to push clicks around, but it's really hard to really get someone to engage and to not abandon in a process. So it's really the deep fundamentality even to experimentation. I think that goes a long way for the team.
So let me switch a little bit topics. You said earlier that Atlassian historically is a very data-driven company. How is that? How is it in a day-to-day work? Is everybody looking at data? Is everybody analyzing its own data? Is there a data democratization within the company? Or is it more you guys are kind of the service organization and you deliver the reports and that's it? Or how's that working?
So one of Atlassian's sort of core principles is open company, no bullshit. It's a very open company. Data is available to just about everybody who's able to sort of use it. We do, of course, surface dashboards. We do work very closely with business owners, with the functional units, to be able to understand how do we customize it for them. And so we almost have an embedded analyst model wherein we have our analysts really sitting down with the business teams that they work with so that they understand the context of where the data comes from. But besides that, you don't really have to be in any specific business team or aligned to any specific campaign or channel or anything to ask for in-product, out-of-product data and understand it. The idea is get everybody rallied around the same principles. So it's very, very open in that regard.
In data is kind of the rocket fuel for your growth in the overall perspective. Great products and data?
Great products, data-driven decision-making. Yeah.
So how is then that manifested in data-driven decision-making? Are the designers not play a role at the company anymore? Or are you consistently A/B testing if it should be green versus red versus blue? Or like how much, where's the line of making data-driven decisions and where, maybe again, the kind of user experience designer comes in and says, I know the data says different, but this is how it has to be. So our experiment teams have embedded designers. So it's even if I could come up with this really great idea, I don't have a creative bone, and so I would really depend on sort of my both the developers and the designers to help me through with the idea. But I think that so they work together. I'm yet in the last 2 years at Atlassian to come up across a situation where a designer has come in and forced a point of view. I think people have strong opinions, but more importantly, absolutely everyone's open to the idea of testing it wherever possible. So you have a good idea, you want the button to be a particular color, let's go for it. And this is almost always the sort of example that comes up in conversations. It's hardly about usually buttons and colors. It tends to be about flows and user experiences and when you introduce a specific kind of message. And everyone's open to always testing it. And that's the idea. Almost everything that we try to build, we'd want to take it through a test cycle first to make sure that we're not, something's working, so you want to test it before you change it. Everything you're working on, you take to a test cycle?
Almost everything within the more, there's so many different web properties and different things that we work on, but things that really fall along the more trafficked parts that are in someone's journey of either consideration or awareness or purchase, we would definitely take it through an understanding of how do we go about changing it.
How many A/B tests you think you run per week?
Across both website and product, I would have to punt on that. I do not know. I mean, like right now, I know on my web team is probably running about 8 concurrent experiments, but this is
every week 8 new ones.
And it then again depends on the cycle time of how long we want to run it. So I don't know whether there'll be 8 every new week. We want to be carefully make sure that we're not conflicting experiments in any sort of way. But then I'm just talking about my web properties. There's a lot of there's much more in product work that's also going on in terms of running these experiments. So it's always on, that's for sure. Yeah. It's always on.
What makes a good experiment?
Okay, I think it was one that's sort of based on a hypothesis to begin with. I mean, we've got so many things that we want to do, so it's always rarely somebody like having just a good idea. It's really based on a hypothesis of what we'd like to improve. It goes with well-considered designs of all the way through to the funnel. How would this change with the user's experience, depending on where they entered, where they landed, where they moved on into the next experience. It goes with, we have our data scientists as part of the process to make sure we understand how long we want to run the experiment for, and we maintain that discipline to be able to do that, and determine whether the change is beneficial or not. It goes on pre-agreed goals that we want out of it. So it's a very sort of well thought through, fleshed out process before anything actually really becomes an experiment on our website.
So how do you guys get to that kind of hypothesis? Is that a sticky note creative session? Is that coming from the CMO, or is that really a team effort? Is there a design thinking process? What's kind of like for someone that sees it, like how can they get started?
A mix of both, really. So we will have sessions where we'll have joint sessions, and we'll have teams come in and talk to us about what they want to do, what would they like to run. And these are across different products, different parts of our website. Someone might want to care about sign-up flows or form fields, and someone else might care about the templates that are used in terms of messaging on a product page. So they'll all come in with different kind of ideas that they want to test, and so we do have a large backlog of ideas we want to go through, and there'll be times when people will have ideas sort of that are not in these meetings. We have a very agile process. They'll end up telling us, they'll open up their tickets of what they'd like to see run on the what kind of test they'd like to see run. We'll work with the teams, figure out how we could prioritize it, and send it out as soon as we can to be able to give them as quick feedback as we can.